continue now to the end of the play Antigone. I'm with you on page 853, the Creon. Let's say right away that this play is tragic. Tragic for all parties involved. Let's just list them really quickly at level 1. Obviously tragic for Antigone. Obviously tragic for Creon. Tragic for Creon's son Haemon, but there is going to be another tragedy. There will be the tragedy of Creon's wife, Haemon's mother. But there's another tragedy after that, you could argue, and it's the tragedy of the great Theban people, who will lose in almost every way their leadership at the conclusion of this. So we've got then now the chorus, who will have their exchange, and of course, the reality is, bad stuff's about to happen. Now, Sophocles isn't going to show this on stage. He's going to use messengers to provide the info. Here we go.
Paean, Strophe 1.
God of many names.
O Aeacus, son of Cadmean Semele, O born of the thunder, guardian of the west, regent of Eleusis' plain. O prince of Menid Thebes, and the dragon field by rippling Ismenus.
Antistrophe 1.
God of many names.
The flame of torches flares on our hills. The nymphs of Aeacus dance at the spring of Castalia. From the vine-close mountain come an ivy. Evoe, Evoe sings through the streets of Thebes.
Strophe 2.
God of many names.
Aeacus of Thebes, heavenly child of Semele, bride of the thunderer. The shadow of plague is upon us. Come with clement feet, O come from Parnassus, down the long slopes, across the lamenting water.
Antistrophe 2.
Io, fire, chorister of the throbbing stars. O purest among the voices of the night, thou Son of God, blaze for us.
Come with choric rapture of circling Menids, who cry, Io, Aeaca, God of many names.
Now, it's often lost on students and readers of this play today that this was first and foremost a religious text. That is to say, it was a text that spoke directly to the Athenian people about how important it is to show proper reverence to the gods. And in this paean at the very end of the play, there is the choruses praying to the gods for help. Let's write down in your notes at 2b, allusion, A-L-L-U-S-I-O-N. Sophocles will drop lots of names. Did you see the list on page 853? Did you see all the sidebars from 18 through 28? All those names that are listed there, did you see that? All those names are, of course, important and influential moments in the history of Greek, what we would call today mythology. The Greeks didn't call it mythology, by the way. They called it their religion, right? But this notion that you're calling on all of the gods to say, please help us out. We are in a world of hurt. Of course, the audience will know when the messenger shows up. I'm on page 854. The audience will realize and know, dude, it's too late. It's too late. Things that are done cannot be undone. And in that moment, that recognition of that moment, tragedy. Let's go ahead now and watch. The messenger is going to tell us what transpired when Creon went to bury the body of Polynices and to free Antigone from the grave, from the cave.
Exodus. Enter messenger left.
Men of the line of Cadmos, you who live near Amphion's citadel, I cannot say of any condition of human life, this is fixed. This is clearly good or bad. Fate raises up, and fate casts down, the happy and unhappy alike. No man can foretell his fate. Take the case of Creon. Creon was happy once, as I count happiness. Victorious in battle, sole governor of the land, fortunate father of children nobly born. And now it has all gone from him. Who can say that a man is still alive when his life's joy fails? He is a walking dead man. Grant him rich. Let him live like a king in his great house. If his pleasure is gone, I would not give so much as the shadow of smoke for all he owns.
Your words hint at sorrow. What is your news for us?
They are dead. The living are guilty of their death.
Who is guilty? Who is dead? Speak.
Hymen. Hymen is dead, and the hand that killed him is his own hand.
His father's or his own?
His own, driven mad by the murder his father had done.
Tiresias, Tiresias, how clearly you saw it all.
This is my news. You must draw what conclusions you can from it.
But look, Eurydice, our queen, has she overheard us?
Enter Eurydice from the palace center.
I have heard something, friends. As I was unlocking the gate of Palace Shrine, for I needed her help today, I heard a voice telling of some new sorrow, and I fainted there at the temple with all my maidens about me.
8:55.
But speak again, whatever it is, I can bear it. Grief and I are no strangers.
Dearest lady, I will tell you plainly all that I have seen. I shall not try to comfort you. What is the use, since comfort could lie only in what is not true? The truth is always best. I went with Creon to the outer plain where Polynices was lying. No friend to pity him, his body shredded by dogs. We made our prayers in that place to Hecate and Pluto that they would be merciful, and we bathed the corpse with holy water, and we brought fresh broken branches to burn what was left of it. And upon the urn we heaped up a towering barrow of the earth of his own land. When we were done, we ran to the vault where Antigone lay on her couch of stone. One of the servants had gone ahead, and while he was yet far off, he heard a voice grieving within the chamber, and he came back and told Creon. And as the king went closer, the air was full of wailing, the words lost, and he begged us to make all haste. Am I a prophet? He said, weeping, and must I walk this road, the saddest of all that I have gone before? My son's voice calls me on. Oh, quickly, quickly! Look through the crevice there, and tell me if it is Hymen or some deception of the gods. We obeyed, and in the cavern's farthest corner we saw her lying. She had made a noose of her fine linen veil, and hanged herself. Hymen lay beside her, his arms about her waist, lamenting her. His love lost underground, crying out that his father had stolen her away from him. When Creon saw him, the tears rushed to his eyes, and he called to him, What have you done, child? Speak to me. What are you thinking that makes your eyes so strange? Oh, my son, I come to you on my knees.
8:56.
But Hymen spat in his face. He said not a word, staring, and suddenly drew his sword and lunged. Creon shrank back, the blade missed, and the boy, desperate against himself, drove it half its length into his own side and fell. And as he died, he gathered Antigone close in his arms again, choking, his blood bright red on her white cheek. And now he lies dead with the dead, and she is his, at last, his bride in the houses of the dead.
Let's pause for a moment. The messenger, and by the way, put this in your notes. Shakespeare rarely shows on stage killing. So, for example, when we study Julius Caesar, when Julius Caesar gets stabbed on stage, very, very unusual. You normally don't have this. In the Greek tradition, you don't show this kind of thing on stage. So you have a messenger who comes on stage who says, you're not even going to believe what I got to tell you. Let's begin where the messenger comes on stage and analyze what it is that he says. As he comes on stage on page 854, notice he begins by pointing out, this is fixed. This is clearly good or bad is never so easily said. Reminding us of that famous story from Taoism that we've worked with at 3A before, of the old man whose son goes off and finds some ponies, wild horses, and brings them home and immediately becomes a millionaire. And the next door neighbor comes to the man and says, whoa, great, this is awesome. And the old man says, who knows what is good and what is bad? He's like, what are you talking about? You're a millionaire. Before you had nothing. Now you're a millionaire with all these ponies. Who knows what is good and bad? And sure enough, his son gets on one of them to break the pony. Ends up falling down, breaking his arm terribly. Mars him for life. And again, the neighbor next door, oh, that's so terrible. You lost your son in the prime of his youth to a broken, shattered arm. How terrible is that? Again, who knows what is good and what is bad? And sure enough, the next day, the soldiers show up and they're ready to constrict warriors to come and fight in the army. And they can't take the boy because of his jacked arm. So the boy's life is saved. And again, who knows what is good and what is bad. And this can go on and on. Notice the F word again comes up. Fate. That is to say, you can't fight against fate. Leaving the audience to recognize this is coming. It's inevitable. It's just a matter of time. Of course, Creon is the one that has created all of these problems in many ways. Although Antigone's actions obviously perpetrated to some degree all of this. The messenger will then speak with Eurydice. And Eurydice, the queen, will want to know. And Eurydice will say, I can take this. I can take the news. Tell me what happened. Let's now go through the messengers on page 855. The messenger's report. Notice he says to her, I can't give you any comfort. My news is bad news. She says, fine, give it to me. 1. Let's go through it at level 1. 1. The first thing, of course, is we've got that he went and buried the body of Polynices. That's the first thing he does, which is ironic, because if he had gone to Antigone first, he would have been able to save her life and the life of his son. That's not what he does. The order here is tragic. It seems to be fated. He says, we went, the messenger says, we buried the body of Polynices. It was all jacked up, bit on by the dogs, but we did. We buried him. 2, we went to the cave. But when the messenger got close, there was a wailing sound, a strange crying sound in the cave. And Creon came up and looked inside the cave, and he saw his son lying next to the dead body of Antigone. Antigone, locked away in the cave, had decided to hang herself instead of wait for starvation. Haman shows up. Antigone is already dead. You can write it down in 3a. Obviously, this is Romeo and Juliet, right? Shakespeare loves this story. And, of course, Pyramus Thisbe as well, as we have said, right? No question about it. That notion that in the end, right, fate happens. Think about Tolstoy's story. Remember that one? How much land does a man need? That notion that in the end, it's kind of this inevitable, fated, sad moment. We're told that the king comes in and he says to his son, what are you doing? Get away from there. The son draws his sword, lunges at his father. Creon's able to get out of the way. The son then falls on his own sword and commits suicide. We think, of course, of all of the tragic texts. Jot them down at 3a. What is for you the most tragic of texts? Haman killing himself at the end and pulling Antigone next to him so that together they can die. Of course, let's point out that in the play, we never have seen, right, Haman and his girl Antigone together. And never does Antigone really talk much about the love that she has. But it's clear that he has tremendous love for Antigone. Notice Eurydice then will leave. Where will she leave? She's going to go off to commit suicide. It's too great of a burden for her to bear. I'm on page 856. And we will now end with Creon coming on stage in what is one of the most compelling scenes you will ever see in drama. Creon arrives on stage with the body of his son in his arms. And he lays that body down on the stage, and Creon is a completely broken man. He is no doubt the protagonist of our play in this regards. We identify with doing something you cannot undo. Put it at 3a. When you're a senior, you're going to study with me Shakespeare's classic Macbeth. And we're going to study this mantra. He got what he wanted, but he lost what he had. He got what he wanted, but he lost what he had. And we're going to see this a lot. Let's go ahead now and let's finish this real, serious, tragic play. And we look at this and we kind of go, you know what? This is so sad, but so predictable. Because when people lose their logic and they become emotional and they say things. How many friendships have you seen at World and High School destroyed this way? Two people start talking and then the rhetoric escalates And then all of a sudden people say things and they do things they can't unsay and they can't undo. And then all of a sudden we got this kind of tragic ending of this text. Of course, Shakespeare very influenced by this text, so that at the end of Romeo and Juliet, you'll remember the two bodies of Romeo and Juliet are brought out onto the stage side by side. Here we'll have father carrying his son's dead body, and of course the father, Creon, has to live with the fact that his wife has also committed suicide. Let's finish now this really, really tragic play, and just pay attention to the pain, the suffering.
Exit Eurydice into the palace.
She has left us without a word. What can this mean?
It troubles me too. Yet she knows what is best. Her grief is too great for public lamentation, and doubtless she has gone to her chamber to weep for her dead son, leading her maidens in his dirge.
It may be so, but I fear this deep silence.
Pause.
I will see what she is doing. I will go in.
Exit messenger into the palace. Enter Creon with attendants bearing Hymen's body.
But here is the king himself. Oh, look at him, bearing his own damnation in his arms.
Nothing you say can touch me anymore.
Broken man.
My own blind heart has brought me from darkness to final darkness.
Line 96.
Here you see the father murdering the murdered son, and all my cynic wisdom. Hymen, my son, so young to die. I was the fool, not you. And you died for me.
That is the truth, but you were late in learning it.
This truth is hard to bear. Surely a god has crushed me beneath the hugest weight of heaven and driven me headlong a barbaric way to trample out the thing I held most dear. The pains that men will take to come to pain.
Enter messenger
857.
from the palace.
The burden you carry in your hands is heavy. But it is not all. You will find more in your house.
What burden worse than this shall I find there?
The queen is dead.
Oh, port of death, deaf world, is there no pity for me? And you, angel of evil, I was dead and your words are death again. Is it true, boy? Can it be true? Is my wife dead? Has death bred death?
You can see for yourself.
The doors are opened and the body of Eurydice is disclosed within.
Oh, pity! Oh, true, and more than I can bear. Oh, my wife, my son.
She stood before the altar, and her heart welcomed the knife her own hand guided. And a great cry burst from her lips, for Megarius dead, and for Hymen dead, her sons, and her last breath was a curse for their father, the murderer of her sons. And she fell, and the dark flowed in through her closing eyes.
Oh, God, I'm sick with fear. Are there no swords here? Has no one a blow for me?
Her curse is upon you for the deaths of both.
It is right that it should be. I alone am guilty. I know it, and I say it. Lead me in. Quickly, friends. I have neither life nor substance. Lead me in.
You are right. If there can be right in so much wrong, the briefest way is best in a world of sorrow.
858.
Let it come. Let death come quickly and be kind to me. I would not ever see the sun again.
All that will come when it will, but we meanwhile have much to do. Leave the future to itself.
All my heart was in that prayer.
Then do not pray anymore. The sky is deaf.
Lead me away. I have been rash and foolish. I have killed my son and my wife. I look for comfort. My comfort lies here, dead. Whatever my hands have touched has come to nothing. Fate has brought all my pride, to a thought of dust.
As Creon is being led into the house, the Chiragos advances and speaks directly to the audience.
There is no happiness where there is no wisdom. No wisdom but in submission to the gods. Big words are always punished, and proud men in old age learn to be wise.
Sophocles wanted to drive the point home at the end of this play. And as they say, this play from the very, very beginning moved audiences with this final scene. As I say, if you have a good actor playing the role of Creon, there is almost nothing you will ever witness as powerful as when he is this completely broken man at the end of the play. And he realizes it. Go back to page 856. He says it. He says it about himself. Here you see the father murdering the murdered son in all my civic wisdom. In other words, I brought this on myself with my stupidity. Haman, he says, speaking to his boy, my son, so young to die. I was the fool, not you, and you died for me. How'd you like to be the father that gets to live with that the rest of your life? That you're the one responsible for the death of your son because you were unwilling to listen. Of course, the Greeks have a word for this. Perspicacity, insight. I can look at you, that's outside. What's insight? I roll my eyes into the back of my head and see my brain? No. Insight, understanding, wisdom. You figure it out. But notice in this play, he figures it out too late. He gets it now, but it's too late. Of course, he's told, by the way, the key line at the bottom of 856, the pains that men will take to come to pain. Think about that line, how compelling a line that is. The pain